So my question is dealing with the name. I'm just visiting this congregation, and the person before, she mentioned about the name. And I'm just curious that you say Yahshua or Yahushua, but still I hear God and Lord, because I'm not used to hearing God and Lord anymore in where I visit. So I just want to know what is the custom here, because I hear that and I don't hear Yah. I'm looking for Yah or Yahuwah. You know, I don't say God and Lord, and that's my question.
Because here, well, let me first of all, when it comes to profaning the name YHWH, I don't believe that command has anything to do with how it's pronounced. Because everybody who has a case to say it's Yahuwah, Jehovah, Yahweh, has a case to make. And I don't advocate for one or dispute the other. My official position is, how do you pronounce the name YHWH? I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't know that anybody can say with 100% certainty that they know either, because none of us were there when Moses pronounced it. None of us were there when Yeshua pronounced it. So this congregation, our position is, we don't say you have to say it this way, you have to say it that way. We respect that there are people who have differences of opinion on it. Some people say Yahweh, some people say Jehovah, some people say God, some people say Lord. And we understand that God is not a name, that is a title ascribed to the God the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We understand that Lord is an English term that is ascribed to the one we serve. And yeah, YHWH, that is his, that's his name, that's his personal memorial name, but I don't know that anyone can be 100% certain how to pronounce that. So then we do not allow that to become something that people could use to divide. Because we've got people coming into this congregation that they were just over here in a Pentecostal church last week, and they don't know anything about all of this. And we want to be able to minister to them too. We want to be able to reach them too. And so, we'll sing songs, and it's got the name Jesus in it. And I know that some people in the Messianic community, that just freaks them out. I don't have a problem with it. We choose to say Yeshua, because I can be pretty confident about that one. But at the same time, if somebody says Jesus or Lord or God, we're not going to, you have to say it this way, you need to do it that. We're going to be respectful of where everyone is, with the idea that the more they come here and the longer they're part of this congregation, they'll begin to learn to acclimate to, how we do things around here, because we want to make certain that everyone has an opportunity to grow, right? There was many years ago, I was invited to speak at a congregation, and they called me up and said, but now we need you to pronounce the name this way. And I said, well, I don't know that that's the correct way, and my conviction won't allow me to do it. And so if it just comes down that you will have me only if I pronounce the name this way, then I'm not coming. Because we need to be willing to allow people we need to be able to meet people where they are. Let me put it this way, and this is going to sound like I'm changing gears, and I guess in a way I am. But you go read in Acts chapter 2, when the Spirit was poured out on the disciples, and the people who had gathered in Jerusalem were hearing the wonderful works of God in every language under heaven. And so if they were hearing the wonderful works of God in every language, which I would assume included Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, it even talks about Mesopotamians were there. That means people who were from Babylon were hearing the wonderful works of God in their own language. And so they were hearing God being glorified in languages that would not have pronounced Yahuwah, Jehovah, Yahweh, any of this. And yet God was so adamant to demonstrate that his Spirit is being poured out on all flesh. And that's why Peter starts quoting from Joel on that day. It doesn't seem to me, and this is the point, that the Creator rejected their praises because they weren't saying it in Hebrew, or their Hebrew wasn't exactly the way it was pronounced 3,500 years ago, or even 2,000 years. So you will hear people in this congregation say God. You will hear people say Yahweh. You will hear people say Yah. You will hear people say Yahuwah, Yeshua, and as long as we all have the right kind of heart and we're appealing to him from our heart and from the convictions of our heart and the Spirit, and having respect that not everybody's at the same place I am, I'm good with that. What I'm going to have a problem with is if somebody figures that they've got it all figured out and makes it their mission in life to correct everybody else. Because that is, in my experience, usually creates division and strife. And that is what we do not want. One day we'll come into the kingdom and Yeshua will set it all straight. And he'll tell us how to pronounce this, and he'll tell us exactly how we were to do that. But until then, we work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. And we respect the fact that not everybody's on the same place on this journey. There's always going to be somebody up ahead of me that knows a little more, understands a little more, and I'm hoping to learn from them. There's always going to be somebody behind me that I need to be able to be gracious to them, to teach them the things that I have learned. But the Spirit of God is the one who's drawing and wooing and bringing us ultimately to the same objective. I'll say one other thing, and then I'll go to the next person. And this is an analogy I've used many times. If we're all, I guess since we're looking now ahead to Shavuot, to go up to the mountain, so to speak, and God comes down on top of the mountain. Ultimately, our objective is to draw near unto him. And he's calling people from all over the world. But we're all trying to converge to the same place. And that is to commune with him. And so he's got some people coming up this side of the mountain. He's got some people coming up this side, and some this side, and some up this side. And on this side, they're dealing with rocks and ravines and canyons and things like this. On this side, they're dealing with snakes and scorpions and wild animals. And this side, they're dealing with this, and this side, they're dealing with that. Point is this: there's only one who has the perspective to deal with everybody with what they're dealing with right then and there. In other words, I'm over here dealing with wild animals and snakes and scorpions, and he's dealing with rocks and ravines and canyons. What sense does it make for me to tell him how to walk his walk on his side of the mountain when I'm on the other side? So, the one who we are all trying to draw to, he's the one who could say, now you need to do this right here. That's the next step you're going to take. And you over here, that's the next step you need to take. And you over here, here's what you need to focus on, and so on. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we all have these different convictions about different things. They are all important. If that's what the Father's dealing with us about then and there, it's very important. But we need to understand that he may not be dealing with that person about that particular thing right then. I said I was going to say that, and that was going to be it. But this comes to mind as well, because it's related, I think. And I don't want you to think that I am putting you in any of these categories that I'm talking about, but I'm speaking, to a lot of people right now, all right? Because that topic touches a lot of different situations that we have in a congregation, and particularly with people online who join us from time to time. But, after the resurrection, Peter, Messiah approaches Peter. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my lambs. That exchange. And then he starts to tell Peter when you're older, you're going to be led to a place you're not going to want to go, and he's talking about the death that he's going to suffer, et cetera, et cetera. And so Peter starts talking to him or thinking about that, and then he looks ahead at the disciple who had laid his head on the Messiah's breast on the eve of the crucifixion. He says, so what about this guy? And Yeshua's answer to him is, don't worry about him. You focus on me. And this is why I'm going there with your question. Let's focus on him. And if my heart's conviction is, I want to call on him as Yah, do it with all your heart. If you want to call on him as Yahweh, do it with all your heart. If you're still God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, do it with all your heart. If you're still Lord, he knows who you're talking to. Do it with all your heart. And in time, he will bring us all into the place of maturity that he wants us to be. Yes, we do certain things a little differently than we used to do in our mainstream churches. But we haven't gotten it all figured out yet. And so we try to be respectful of where everyone is in this walk, as long as they're staying within the boundaries of what we know is right and wrong. Okay, I hope I answered your question somewhat. Thank you.